Josh's House of Nerd Podcast.
Greetings, Nerd Nation. I'm Josh, and I welcome you to the podcast. Grab a cold evergreen goblet of blue milk and make yourself comfortable here at my House of Nerd. Now, for tonight's sponsor, the famous Suck Cut. It sucks why it cuts. Is it sucking your will to live? Disclaimer, if the Suck Cut is sucking your will to live, please discontinue the use of this device and consult your mom. Not a sponsor. Now on to the podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Crit and John, and we are discussing the movie that John gave us last week, which is the ever-popular Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
And this is
1980 version. 19... have to specify that. So don't watch the 50s Flash Gordon.
Well, and I don't know if you noticed this. Also, there is when did it come out? There's a 2000 version of Flash Gordon also that the Sci-Fi Channel did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. I actually watched it. They did one season of it, and I actually liked it. It's super cheesy. Not as cheesy, I think, as this movie, but it's definitely still cheesy, but it's still fun.
Whoa. Cheesy? No. We got to go to campy.
Campy.
I take offense to cheesy here.
Really?
Campy is a
you can be offended over this movie? Really?
No, probably not. Well, so the first time that I ever saw this movie, I was home from school because I had a horrible ear infection. And so they had this medicine and a cotton ball in my ear, and I had to lay on my one side. And all I could do was sit there for like 2 hours as this stuff drips into my ear. And what, lo and behold, comes on but Flash Gordon, 1980 on the Sci-Fi Channel.
So how old were you?
Well, I was 8 or 9.
Okay. Yeah, I could see how this movie would appeal to a drugged up 8-year-old.
I mean, this is along the lines of maybe Ice Pirates. You know, that's kind of where I got introduced to Ice Pirates, and which is super like a drugged up style movie you'd watch at home when you're sick.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, and I think all I was hopped up on was Tylenol, so I don't think I was that out of it. But again, 8-year-old, you're absolutely right.
That's all right.
It's all good, man.
I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it.
I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I had. I already thought I would. I have actually never seen this movie all the way through, believe it or not.
There are some parts in it that are kind of challenging to get through, like to pay attention to.
Yeah.
It seems like.
I felt like overall the movie, even though I did enjoy parts of it, it got kind of long in parts. Especially the part where he went to the tree world, Arbory or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
That I felt like that got a little long. I was totally shocked to see Timothy Dalton there, though.
I know, right?
James Bond and Flash Gordon.
Yeah, and he was one of the better, actors in that movie. Because let's just be honest, guys, the acting was not super great, but there are some standouts in this movie who did give a great acting. I wouldn't say great, but good acting performance. Go ahead.
And what's interesting about Flash Gordon to begin with is the Flash Gordon 1980 has been quoted as inspiration to directors like the Russo brothers or what's his name? I can never pronounce his last name. Thor. He did Thor Ragnarok and
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, Waititi. So Waititi talks about his inspiration from Flash Gordon. So it's not like this was unheard of.
It doesn't shock me that Taika likes this movie. He likes some crazy stuff. I love Taika though, man. He is amazing.
Not at all. So it's definitely got its place in its heart of more than just a hopped up 8-year-old. I think it
all right.
got,
I will listen to your reasonings.
Well, I mean, you gotta love Max Van Dyke. I think
Max von Sydow. I think he was one of the standout performances in this. As good as it comes, he's just a good actor anyway. He definitely stood out amongst them. And I thought Timothy Dalton did a great job. He did an okay job in this movie.
I was about to say he did an okay job. Hagrid from Harry Potter, I think, did the best job of this entire film.
Which one was he?
Robert Coltrane was the guy who closed the airplane's door in the very first scene.
Oh, that was Robbie Coltrane?
That was Robbie Coltrane, yeah.
Wow. I did not recognize him.
Yep, I had to pause and stop, and then I had to go check IMDb to make sure I was right there.
Do you want to know who else I saw there in that movie that I was surprised? Do you know who Deep Roy is?
No.
Deep Roy is the Oompa Loompa in the new Johnny Depp movie.
Oh, yeah, with the whole Oompa Loompa scene.
In the Charlie and Chocolate Factory. Yeah, he's the kind of the pet of the Empress. Of Ming's
those
daughter,
the budget Oompa Loompas were an interesting addition to the film.
Their foil suits.
Their tinfoil suits. I was waiting for them to burst into song. I was half expecting that. I couldn't remember, since I hadn't watched this since I was probably about 12 or 13. I couldn't remember if there were musical numbers, so I was excited for the Oompa Loompas.
That ultimately, that whole scene we're talking about, where when Flash Gordon first meets Ming, and you've got all of those people sitting in the throne room and stuff. It was funny if you listen to the sound. I was kind of I was like, one thing I thought of is this is very colorful. The next thing was when they were doing the football scene, when he was punching through everybody with his egg. Yeah. How you could tell they didn't have a sound effects budget either, because everything was sounded like clanging against plastic. When they would hit, or it was like fake metal, type stuff. It was just kind of funny, or plastic with metal on it.
They got their Foley artist only lasted a day on the film before he realized what kind of film he was making.
What?
And up and quit. No, I'm joking.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that real?
Apparently, I can't. I shouldn't deliver that.
The facts.
Well, if we want to talk facts, this was the film that George Lucas wanted to reboot, couldn't get the rights, and then pushed on to make Star Wars right after. So, good things have come from Flash Gordon in the fact of George Lucas.
Is that right?
So, yeah.
Well, I know Star Wars was a huge huge influence from the old Buck Rogers serials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's evident in the Star Wars and all the other movies of that. Even though there's lots of other elements in Star Wars, but Buck Rogers, he says over and over again, was a direct influence to Star Wars in the way he made it.
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing with George Lucas, but it was somebody else who had the rights, who was optioning the rights at the time, that he couldn't get it, so he went on and obviously wrote his own thing, which is much more successful. So I'm glad he didn't get the rights to it.
And I kind of am too, because I like what he did better, of course. It seemed like, okay, do you think this was on purpose in this movie? This movie was, do you think they didn't have enough budget? Or do you feel like they were on purpose being campy? Because if you look in the ships in the background and stuff like that, they do very much look like the old serials. So, right. I mean, that part I think was purposeful, but the rest of it, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they had some high budget scenes, the tilting thing of death. I don't know what to call that. The tilting disc of death when they're making him fight him and Dalton. So I mean, they dropped their budget on a lot of things, and some of it, I mean, they dropped a lot of budget post-production because so Sam J. Jones is all of his dialogue, and then George Harris's dialogue, which is Prince Thune, all of those were completely dubbed after the fact.
What? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think they spent their budget on maybe dumb things. I don't know that they went into this deciding to make a campy film. At least I don't get that impression out of that. Crit, what do you think?
I don't know, man. When you have Sam J. Jones as Flash Gordon, and he obviously can act, at least in this film. I don't know if he's done anything else. Somebody sat down and wrote that first fight scene where everything's kind of artificially set up as a football thing. That, I don't know, man. You don't sit down and write that and go, this is going to be a masterpiece. You go, this is a fun film for the family, sort of, and for that type of thing. But I really don't see them as being we were going for high art or something more compelling, and then we just ended up at this camp.
Flash
I think it was camp from the beginning. I think they took a look at the comic books that this comes from and went, yeah, let's just do that. And that's what they did. This is their vision of what a comic book movie would look like.
I can see that. I can agree with that. Absolutely. I do wonder what went on in some of the actors' heads, especially coming from movies like Fiddler on the Roof. So you had who plays the doctor? I can't remember his name. Topol. So he's playing Dr. Hans Zarkov. He's from Fiddler in the Roof. So I mean, you have these guys that have probably come from Broadway. At least Topol did. Now they're making this campy superhero film. I wonder what went on through their heads, especially like you said, the football scene, the whole let's set this up as, Friday night linebacker. I wonder what they were thinking.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Going back to your dubbing thing, I was just looking that up because I'd never heard that before. Did you? And it says here that Sam J. Jones had a falling out with Dino De Laurentiis over lack of payment and refused to go into the recording studio to redub his lines.
Again? Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I must be thinking only of George Harris then.
No, it does say that a lot of the lines are dubbed up above, but he refused to redub his lines. Because it says here after that, most of his dialogue was dubbed.
Yeah, the audio was all over the place to begin with. Yeah. like you said, the Foley artist was pretty budgety. The dialogue with all these issues with dubbing, I wonder like if they just didn't have very many skilled people on set. Yeah, it's interesting how bad that got.
Some of the yeah. So one of the some of the things that I put on this was one of the things at the very beginning that kind of gave it all the kind of cheesiness and feel that we're doing kind of comes from, it felt like a little Buck Rogers also in there, and I'm a big fan of Buck Rogers, at least the old TV show, and that very beginning part kind of felt like in the vortex, like very Buck Rogery and stuff, the way that they were coming home and stuff like that.
I have to confess that I've never actually watched any Buck Rogers.
Seriously?
No, never have.
It is super, super campy. Well,
yeah, campy. There we go. Keep it. Let's stick with campy.
We'll stay with campy, not cheesy. But
I don't know. I could go both ways.
I do enjoy it though. I matter of fact, with Buck Rogers, I enjoy the very first, because that could actually be considered a movie also, like Battlestar Galactica. It was released in the movie theaters also in its first 2 hours, and then they recut it and put it into the first 2 hours of the TV show.
Oh,
the same thing. Yeah. Actually, that's exactly what they did with Battlestar Galactica. And it was the same person who did Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers, which is Glenn A. Larson. He was the main writer of both of them. So anyways, some Buck Rogers trivia there for you in the middle of Flash Gordon. I know too much about some of those movie shows. But
well, I mean, if you look at them with if you're hopped up, you probably wouldn't tell the difference between Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. Maybe some of the earlier stuff.
Definitely the early serials of the two. No, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in the way that they were done and the way that they were, drawn. They were very similar back in the day, even though Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon were very different in the the TV series and the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, yeah, they were very similar in so many ways, which is fine. I do like how they changed it up and made it different in the movies and stuff like that. So that's a good thing.
Right.
But
I was impressed with the costumes. They had a lot of costumes in this.
They really did.
Like somebody spent a lot of time getting all the costumes.
I wish they had spent some of that time on the Lizardmen's costumes, though.
Okay, I have a couple of comments about those.
That one was definitely weird.
That was some of the worst costume of everything.
Yeah, the costumes were fantastic, and then you get to the lizard men, which is like some third grade mom phoned it in.
I guess there is a reason why the lizard men don't make many appearances, but they did a couple of close-ups, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
They did that close up in the swamp, and then they did that. I mean, from a distance, it didn't look horrible when they killed one at the very beginning.
Yeah, because they kept him kind of out of frame and out of focus.
It's still
Yeah.
terrible, though.
yeah, it was still pretty bad. But they should have kept him out of focus or something to lower that down, because it was rough looking at those. Like you said, you have all of these great costumes. So Ming's costume, Emperor Ming's costume, one of the things they talked about was that it weighed about 70 to 75 pounds.
Jeez.
And Max could not film in it for a long length of time simply because, he's an old guy at this point. And he's walking around with a 70-pound costume on.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it was so heavy. It didn't look like it was that heavy.
No, but it was one of the more. It was one of the
It was
better
pretty
costumes,
intricate.
though. It was pretty intricate. Yeah.
Well, he had two. He had two, if I remember correctly, like the red and black costumes. Those were
Yeah.
different. So I wonder
Yeah.
which one was the heavier one.
Yeah. Good point.
I think the red one might have been the lighter one because the red one was more like militaristic. That's what he was wearing towards the end, and you notice there was a lot less on him.
So at the end, he's like,
yeah, at the
screw,
end. Yeah,
screw
he's just
this.
like
I'm wearing nothing at this
he's
point.
in a cavalry officer's, get up at the end of it. At the beginning of it, he's like full on like
Emperor mode.
Yeah.
It would fit in with how many times that he used his ring to, entice the ladies into like full, almost going into like a full, like, orgasm,
That first version. Yeah, that first one. The blocking for that was pretty good. I wonder how they did that. So his hand was like perfectly encapsulating her from off camera, from behind his shoulder. I was like, the blocking for that is really good. This is a really awkward and totally rapey scene, and I'm not for it. But the blocking was really good.
Some good benefits of that scene.
At least you got to find some kind of golden.
Okay,
I'll have lining for that
I have to
scene.
be honest with you. That's what I did this whole movie. I was just like, find something good and
Oh.
just write down the good stuff, and we're gonna be okay. It's definitely not one of my favorite watches, and I probably won't go back to it. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was
no,
a fun experience.
it's an experience to have, I think, is a good way of putting it.
I was gonna point out something. I mean, because there's goods and bads of this movie. I found more. I was writing down the things that made me laugh and stuff like that. Trying to, me. I always try to find. I try to find the good in this, even though, again, I'm gonna go with you guys. I probably won't find myself watching this on my own. Just because I feel like it. It's just that weird. But I was looking for funny moments. Like this funny moment I found was, did you guys, when you felt like we went to Arbria, it's kind of going back to Star Wars, that we were on the forest moon of Endor? And stuff like that, because like you had the Ewok trees and stuff like that. That was the first thing that popped into my head when I saw that.
I don't understand how they did that set because it's got a lot on it. So they did that set like relatively well compared to like a lot of the indoor sets that were kind of in close. And
I wonder if there was a lot more
supposed to
of
go on
like
there.
deleted scenes that supposedly happened on that planet. For as much effort as they put in there, compared to like the flying men, I wonder if there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened on that planet. Because if you look at it from Timothy Dalton's character, it's 5 minutes of bantering back and forth. I'm going to kill you. To suddenly, well, we tried to kill each other. Now we're best friends.
Yeah,
It almost feels like there was some character development that probably happened in those deleted scenes that we just don't get to see.
it did feel a little forced.
I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt with that. How's that?
That whole duel scene was weird, by the way. The stump scene and them putting their hands into the stump, wondering if you're going to get, bit by the weird scorpion tree monster that was in there. That was strange. And then the whole like ceremony they had for the kid when he walked up on him, that was a little weird and could have been maybe put as a little erotic at the same time, like the way it sounded from off camera.
I didn't get. Yeah, it was weird. I thought that's what I first thought was going to happen. Was we're going to watch an erotic scene, and I'm like, oh, that's great. I don't remember this. Maybe sci-fi edited this part out.
So I do have a question though. Did you remember seeing when you saw it the first time on Sci-Fi Channel, the death of Clytus? What on on the silver disc that you were talking about? And, dude, that
oh my gosh, I laughed out loud.
You know what that reminded me of? That whole death scene. By the way, if anybody doesn't know what this death scene out there, his eyes bug out and like they just turn to like liquid, and like his mouth does too. Dude, this thing looked like one of those like squeeze balls. Like, you know, you get like a stress ball where the eyes poke out and the tongue pokes out when you get from the store and they're squishy. I was like, that was the first thing that popped in my head. Like, weird. That is like got to be the most low effects death I have ever seen.
It's like a weird case of body horror, just like plopped in the middle of the movie. It was like, you know, boom. And they did something similar with the other chick that they killed later, where she turns to like black liquid and flows away from her body. It's like, what? Where like they had competing art people, you know.
There's another scene kind of like that earlier in the movie too, where the person dies and they kind of just disintegrate, you know.
Yeah, it's weird when they inject body horror into the middle of it. It's like, you know, some of the craft people put together this thing and they're like, look how cool it is, and like, well, we spent money on it, we better put it in the movie, even though it doesn't fit the tone.
It reminded me of the last scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It's like they needed some gratuitous ending. Look at his eyeballs.
Though we have to admit, Raiders of the Lost Ark was way better on the special effects on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably bigger budget, obviously better director.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But I don't know. It's weird. And also it felt like they were pushing that character up like crazy, and then he dies really quickly. It's like he's just done. Gets thrown onto the disc, dies, and done. Yeah, it's and then you get a little body horror, and then they move on. It's really weird.
I felt the whole weird. It was weird also how it was kind of back and forth. It was like, why would they allow this guy that they know is going to kill them, you know, onto the Hawkman, you know, world, when it just felt kind of out of place. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're welcoming our, you know, the harshest enemy there. Yeah. And then they just all kind of go with him, you know, no fight, no nothing. They just go with him.
It's just the pacing on this was not, it was, you know, a little challenging.
No doubt. You know, really fast in some things, you know, some of the things they never, that's one thing I struggled with. I want a little bit of an explanation behind, you know, things, even if it's sci-fi. I get it. Just a sci-fi dumb explanation would work, you know. Technobabble, like in Star Trek. I don't know what it means, but it's fine. It gives me a little bit more of a background or texture. It didn't give a lot of that in this movie at all, you know, with any of the, you know, the technology, the brain thing where he sucks the brain out, his memories out, but then it didn't really work.
And then it didn't, because he was reciting Einstein's theory of relativity. I mean,
well, and the Beatles.
And the Beatles. Yeah, I lost it there. I'm like, are you kidding me? Einstein's theory. Oh, and the Beatles.
And the Beatles.
We know which one was more powerful there. It was probably the Beatles.
Yeah, it's so, I don't know, those kind of scenes, that kind of stuff kind of threw me off. But I mean, you can't be too harsh. You know, one of the producers, did you know, I told you a little earlier, that one of the producers is Dino De Laurentiis, who also did Dune.
Yeah.
So
you can't be too hard on it, I guess.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That person at the very beginning, they weren't making like super high quality movies. Eventually they did. But the beginning,
learn the craft over time.
Yeah, definitely at the beginning, which is just one of the earlier ones of Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah. What I want to know is whether or not he had a hand in the decision to use handguns. In the very when they first land on Ming's planet and they get shot with those literal handguns where hands pop out of the gun.
Oh, geez.
Grab him by the throat. I wonder if he had a hand in that decision. Who wrote that? Who wrote that? Designed literal handguns.
Yeah, no, that's pretty bad. I forgot about that. The handguns. Oh, geez,
they only used them twice. They
twice
used them in that part, and then they used to hold down the daughter of
In the
Yeah,
torture
and they weren't
scene,
even
yeah.
they weren't even the guns. They were just the same
Yeah.
prop hands.
Yeah, it was weird.
So I wonder if that's another vestige of a longer movie. It feels like there was a longer movie here. It almost feels like there's at least another hour of content that we're missing.
So are you saying we need to write in and demand the 3-hour cut or the 4-hour cut of this movie?
Release the Dolorento cut.
I say we stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning where we're all kind of loopy and then write our own extra hour of Flash Gordon.
It'd probably be better.
How about we
It-
just
you know,
write,
it might be-
make the scenes just make sense? How about that? Or we'll just make the continuity of this movie just make sense and make it flow better between the scenes.
Yeah, we could do that. The one thing we couldn't do is we probably don't have the money to buy the 100 different synthesizers they used for the soundtrack.
Oh no, those are ancient.
Well,
now.
I mean, yeah,
That's true.
you'd have to like. Okay, let's.
Couldn't you
talk
do it
about
through MIDI?
Queen. Let's talk about Queen.
How did they get Queen? Like, this is like one of the cooler songs out there. They were starting to quite get up there quite a bit in the whole music scene, and they get Queen for this cheesy movie. Sorry, not cheesy.
Yeah,
Campy.
excuse me.
Campy.
Sorry.
There
I
we
don't.
go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Queen being Queen. I mean, the soundtrack couldn't be better for that type of movie, but it feels weird. Like it just feels weird. It's like you get Queen at the beginning, you get
Yeah,
a little bit
and-
of it in the middle, and then you get it at the end.
Mhm.
But the rest of it doesn't feel like Queen.
Well, the
at
rest of
all.
it's just it's another composer. They even list him.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So he's doing all the actual soundtrack work, and
So
Queen is providing tracks for it.
They pulled an Aerosmith in Armageddon, is what happened here.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
They were the
kinda.
original Aerosmith in Armageddon.
Yeah.
You know, in that Queen scene, where he's let's see, what did I put it as? He's flying on his jet ski in space, and he's approaching the lightning shield. That felt like the beginning of Star Trek: The Motion Picture to me, where
Yeah.
it felt like for 900 years the guy was approaching the lightning curtain, and with Queen in the background, and nothing happened. It's like, and he didn't hardly move at all. Like, it just kept flipping back and forth between him and that timer and a little bit of fighting. Oh my goodness. It's like, dude, how freaking long does it take to get this place? Or to that model? Because, I mean, it was all models too. I mean, that was one thing I did think it was interesting, is that it was, without a doubt, it was models. And that was kind of they were still using models so much back then. And I if you do them right, they look excellent. Like we talked about with Lord of the Rings, they look excellent. This is some of them did here and some of them didn't here. In Ming's Palace, I think did look okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah.
But I just wish they would have got there a little faster. This is one of those times I'm just like, come on, just get on with it for freak's sakes.
Yeah, pacing again was a bit.
Pacing was
Bit slow.
terrible. They could have
It
cut
was-
that
it
in
was all
half
over
and
the
it would have
place.
been like just as exciting. And then the death of Ming was so anticlimactic.
Yeah, it didn't feel tacked on because that was kind of the point of the film, but it felt phoned in. It
Yeah.
felt like, oh well, we have to kill him, so
It felt like a Masters of the Universe
he's dead.
type thing where they ran out of money at the very end. And then they did like this weird, like dark scene, where they were just like, didn't have anything choreographed, fighting with swords. It's awful because they ran out of money. And it kind of feels along those lines like, oh, he's dead now. I guess it was a little bit of that, the ring, and then him falling to the ground as his ring ran out of power and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you got the nice little Hawk boys doing the thank you flash
Yeah.
Oh,
in the sky.
jeez.
It's like, what is the
On that
okay.
horrible green screen.
Someone just there was no editor, there was nobody in the room going, okay, guys, hang on. What did you say? We're going to do what? Everybody in the room was like, no, there are no bad ideas, and we will do all of them. And so that's the whole movie is there are no bad ideas. We will do all of them. What if instead of just fighting, they act like they're kind of in a football thing. And we'll have the guy pull over his crew and do like a timeout, and then they'll come back out on the thing. And I'm going, somebody in the room had to go, no, this is dumb. This is off point. This doesn't make sense in the movie. No one was saying no.
And he's got to wear a shirt
saying, "Oh
yes."
yeah."
I don't. I mean, it's fine. It's going after the comic book. I can't even think the comic book was like that incoherent.
Yeah,
It definitely wasn't, because I mean they were built into like small story arcs, you know.
Right. It's like villain of the week or whatever.
Yeah,
or whatever.
definitely.
Yeah. It didn't happen on this one.
Let's see what. Oh, I was gonna say something else, and it just went out of my head. I hate when that happens. Oh, I was gonna say. Okay, I remember now. That, you know, how they did this scene at the very end where they're like, "Oh, Ming will be back," type thing, where someone picks up his ring,
grabs the ring.
Question mark,
Did you know that they were supposed to be? They're signed on for 3 movies.
Yeah, and the first one did so poorly.
Well, when I went to rent
It
it,
lost
there were
money,
like
I think.
6 or 7, Flash Gordon. I don't know if they were movies or episodes or something that were in.
They have earlier ones. I can't remember the guy who did it, but there was original like small serials on in like the 50s.
Oh, okay, that might have been what they were.
And then of course you had the sci-fi one, and then you have this one, the Sci-Fi Channel kind of 2-hour movie that introduced their new series of Flash Gordon that they did for a season.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I've never seen that
and stuff. It's okay. I've watched it all. I kind of lost steam towards the end of the series of the season, which is why it didn't get renewed. But the first part of the series, I really liked a lot.
So you're not pining for a Flash Gordon season 2?
Oh no. You know, no, we're not doing anything like Firefly season 2. You know, that's what I want.
I don't know if I could stand watching somebody use telepathy and treat it like a radio and say over every time. He's like thinking thoughts over.
This chick is turning me on.
I don't know if I could sit through that again in anything.
Oh, that whole scene was awkward too, where he's doing the telepathy and he's like, "Oh, this chick's turning me on." What's going on? What'd you say, Flash?
They were trying to inject some like
humor,
the humor into it, but it was just cringe humor. It wasn't like real humor.
Yeah, it was very awkward humor.
Oh, they tried very hard and failed very hard.
Yeah,
I was thinking another special effect where they failed really hard on too. That scene in the swamp on Arborea, where he's down there and all of a sudden he's like running. And again, I think there was maybe more to this scene. You never know. And then he just falls into the swamp and then he just like goes under the water and you're like, okay, he's dead. And then the next thing he knows, he's pulling himself out. And then like 2 seconds later, that monster in the pit grabs him again. I was just like, how many
balloon with the tentacles? Yeah.
The inflatable. Oh, I laughed so hard on that. That was just one of the cheesiest, campiest.
It's
special effects ever, and then like all of a sudden everybody like is saving him from that.
I feel like they had this big budget and they just wasted it.
I wonder if they filmed
all
those
the wrong
first,
spots.
like they did the whole tree area first.
Oh well, that would make sense because that feels like the most high budget. Yeah. That and the throne room.
It's like environmentally, yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, the throne room was all no holds barred, basically.
So the budget for Flash Gordon was $35 million, which is a lot at that time.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they just used it poorly.
That's possible, especially if they didn't pay the star.
Okay, there's two different things. One says 20 million, the other one says 35 million. IMDb says 20 million. And Google says 35 million, but it's still same ballpark and stuff. You would think that for that type of movie, I'm pretty sure, and I can't remember the budget for Star Wars, but I'm pretty sure the Star Wars budget was either that high or less.
Well, so the funny thing about this too is that the BAFTA Awards in 1981, they were nominated for Best Costume Design.
Dude, Star Wars was $11 million budget.
Yeah.
compared.
Crazy.
We could have had Star Wars times 3, and yet no, we got Oompa Loompas.
$11 million. Oh my goodness. I cannot
I know,
believe
right?
that just blows my mind at the budget difference and how good Star Wars is. Okay. But to be fair to Star Wars was almost this. Star Wars was almost a flop. If you
Well,
remember,
isn't that the story? Is
yeah,
that
that's
they
the story.
found it in the edit.
They
It was
they
all in the
fixed it
edit.
in the edit. It was
Yeah.
because when they first saw the edit, all his friends, George Lucas's friends first saw it, Spielberg and all those guys. They're like, I don't know about this, George,
Right.
and stuff. And
Wouldn't
they
you- wouldn't
gave
you
him
love to
tons
see
of
that
like
version?
things to edit, and he trimmed those down. Plus, Marsha Lucas came in with her editing team and just completely changed the movie, actually,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what
and stuff. That's a fun. I watch that documentary every once in a while because it's interesting on what they did to make Star Wars work. Because if they hadn't done what they did, they even changed the story a little bit. We would have had a Flash Gordon where it was incoherent because they flipped scenes around, everything, which this might have helped on this one, flipping scenes around, cutting things out. And maybe that's what they did try to do. And they made it a mess. It turned into a Fantastic Four reboot, where they had too many hands in the pot and not enough people going, who had a vision to keep it going.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my guess on that anyway. On it Fantastic Four itself.
Well, I appreciate you watching this film and reliving my ear infection days. Highly appreciate it.
Well, I can say that on my list of 1 to 10 Clydens, I'm gonna give it a 4 and stuff like that because it's I didn't hate it. I just know I won't watch it again.
Would I watch it with my mom in the room? Yes, but I would leave the room. Just let her watch it.
Especially in those campy scenes.
I would just leave. It's like, this is a great film, Mom. And then just walk out. I'm going to go get something to drink and then not come back in. That's how I'd run
Yeah. I'll give this a 3 lizard bin out of 10.
I love it. I love it, guys.
It's funny because the real number is hidden inside the lizard bin costume, so it's probably closer to a 2.
It might be.
Crappy lizard bin costumes.
They just look like Kermit the Frog with like freaking glued on eyes, dude,
Wait.
like him.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also kind of body horror too because they have the outside lizard, but then it's the red mouth is open, and inside of that is a human face actually looking out with a mouth. It's so weird.
Creepy.
So weird.
I didn't get creeped out. I should say it isn't creepy. It is creepy, but it didn't creep me out. It was just more
No,
of
it's
like
just,
what the heck is
why?
going on?
Again,
Who thought this was a good thing?
Again, nobody was in the room saying no, and that movie could have had a lot more no's added to it.
At least 2 or 3 more.
Oh.
So Josh,
So
what do
let's-
you have for us this week?
This week, just to remind everybody, we're into the month of August theme, and the month of August theme is sci-fi movies before 1990, including 1990, right, guys? That's the way
Yeah.
I understood. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, up to and including 1990.
up to and including
Yeah.
1990. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know.
So that's what our theme is this week, and it is my week to give you guys choices.
Bring it.
Okay, here we go. Tonight's choices are: number 1, a trio of aliens comes to Earth to break stuff, but our atmosphere harshens their mellow. Number 2, a normal teen does not believe he has a purpose, finds a purpose in playing a video game. And
I know.
3 is a boy continues to learn his destiny and find out, finds out who his family is and confronts his family.
So I think all 3 of them.
Oh, really?
But we're not supposed to. You're not supposed to
Right?
guess.
Yeah.
I
Just
would
look at
do.
you.
I liked the second one a lot. What was the second one again?
I'm going to be completely honest. The first or the second one are the ones I really. I know I'm putting bias here.
Hey, don't put your hand on the scale.
I know. Yeah. I want to though.
I know you do. I did too previously.
Okay, I'm shutting up. I'm shutting up.
That's not fair. All right. So you're thinking number 2, John.
I'm thinking number 2. I wouldn't mind watching.
Do I want to watch that one again? Yeah, that'd be fine. Let's go with number 2.
Okay, so tell us the ones we didn't choose first.
I was hoping you picked number 1. I really wanted you to pick number 1, but that's 1955's War of the Worlds. Is number 1, which is one of my favorite old time movies. Just because it has so much, like, I think the special effects of 1955, this movie's at its best. And I just love the whole thing, even though it's campy. I still love it. Number 2, Last Starfighter, which is what you picked. And then number 3 is Empire Strikes Back. I was going to go Aliens, but at the same time, I was like, I don't want the potential of there being possibly 2 aliens on this list. So,
we could, yeah. I'm fine with The Last Starfighter if you are, Crit.
Well, we've already picked it. We don't have a choice now.
Well, I'm
retroactive.
No. Dang it!
We can't say no. I'm sorry. That's not how the rules work.
I can always erase it.
Well, and I chose this knowing full well the other movies. I love.
Did you know that was War of the Worlds on the first one? I thought that one would throw you for the loop the most.
Yep.
No, that was you're
the third one actually threw me for the most.
You're about well.
It took me a second to think about it. The third one almost threw me. I don't know what I was going to think it was, but I didn't make the instant connection to Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I kind of knew it was Empire. You're about as devious as, what is it, Don Knotts on sodium pentothal?
I'm not trying to be too crazy, And
I think John and I are. We're both masking everything.
Yeah.
You're giving us plot points. We're trying to be like, this vague thing happened. Now guess.
Picking our movies is like sticking your hand into that stump. You don't know which one of the ones you're going to come out with.
I thought the first one would throw you a little bit.
Surprise! That's Nicolas Cage.
That's not one that I talk about very often. That I really, really like. I like that movie, and I like the TV show.
It was the
80s.
Yeah, it was the fact that we're pre-1990, and it was the 3.
The 3 thing, the trio of aliens.
Yeah,
the trio, that's the one that gave it away.
Yeah.
I almost didn't throw the trio in.
Yeah, if it wasn't that, I would have. I don't know.
I almost just did a aliens come to Earth to break stuff, and the atmosphere harshens their mellow.
So Marley and not Marley and Me.
Jeez.
Marley and Me is the movie we're watching next week. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a sci-fi.
It's
a horror also.
Yeah. Body horror.
Horror.
But no, that's what I was like. Aliens come to Earth to break stuff. I mean, that's Marley and Me. They get captured. They still come to Earth, and it was really bad. That was a really bad film.
So The Last Starfighter. All right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time. So
it's exciting.
It is exciting.
There's a lot of good behind the scenes stuff on that one too.
Yeah, if you guys need any copies of it, I've got 2 of it. I've got a DVD version and a Blu-ray version of it.
I might have to come borrow the Blu-ray then.
Sounds good. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys being on the show, and as always, may you be excellent to each other and live long and prosper from all of us here at Josh's House of Nerd. And we say good night to you all.
Thanks for watching. For more nerdy awesomeness, please like and subscribe.